Alright guys, in this lesson we're going to talk about how to divide using partial quotients. And remember, quotient is just the answer to a division problem. The answer to a division problem. So partial quotient. So our learning target is I can divide 4-digit dividends by 1-digit divisors. So remember, if we have 36 divided by 4 equals 9, the 36 would be that dividend. The 4 is called that divisor, and the 9 is the quotient. So those are just those math terms naming each of the parts of a division problem. So the first one we're going to work on is 63 divided by 3. So it's always easiest if you list out the multiples of your divisor. So we're going to list out those multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, and then 36. I normally just list out 1 through 12, so 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, all the way up to 3 times 12, and then I'll stop there. So it's going to look similar to a multiplication problem starting out. What's different is our divisor is going to go on the outside here. That's what we're dividing by. We're trying to figure out how many times 3 will fit into 63. We're trying to figure out how many times 3 will fit into 63. The 63 is going to go on the inside. And we're going to do this one part at a time. So partial quotients, one part at a time. So I want to know 3 times what, so 3 times what will get me as close to 63 as possible. So really, I want to just think of 60. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm thinking of in my head is 60. How close can I get to 60? And if you cancel off that 0, how close can I get to 6? Well, I can get exactly 6 by doing 3 times 2. But I don't just want 6, I want 60. So that would be 3 times 20. Remember, cancel off that 0. 3 times 2 is 6. Add that 0 back on. So 3 times 20 would give me that 60. So 3 times 20 is 60. So far, I've been able to fit 3 into 63 20 times. So I'm going to subtract 63 minus 60, which is 3. And I'm going to take that number, that remaining number, and go to my next column. Now I just have to figure out how many times will 3 fit into 3. Well, that's an easy one because I know that 3 times 1 is 3. So 3 will fit into 3 one time. 3 times 1 is 3, and I'm left with 0. So to get my quotient, or to get my answer, I'm just going to add across the top. 20 plus 1 is 21. Okay, let's look at the next one. 842 divided by 2. So again, I'm going to list those multiples of 2 out. And it's just to help me as I'm dividing. And I'm going to stop at 24 because that's 2 times 12. So I'm going to stop there. So my divisor is a 2. And 842 is my dividend. That's how many times can 2 fit into 842? So to make it simpler, I'm just going to think, how many times can 2 fit into 8? How many times can 2 fit into 8? So if I come to my multiples, well, that can fit in exactly 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8. So 2 times 4, but I don't want just 2 times 4 because the 8 is in the hundreds place. So I want to do 2 times 400. And if you remember, cancel off those zeros. 2 times 4 is 8. Add those zeros back on. So that equals 800 there. That's what we want. So 2 times 400 is 800. Subtract. Bring that next number up so we can figure out how many times. So far we figured out that 2 can fit into 842 400 times. And that would give us 800. So now I've got 42. So how many times can 2 fit into 42? Well, if I look here, how many times can 2 fit into 4? So I come over here. Well, 2 can fit into 4 2 times, because 2 times 2 is 4. But it's not just 2, because the 4 is in the tens place. It would be 20. So 2 times 20. 2 times 20 is 40. I'm left with 2. I'm going to extend my box a little bit, bring that next one up. And lastly, how many times can 2 fit into 2? Well, that's easy. 2 times 1 is 2. So how many times can it fit in there? 1 time. So 2 times 1 is 2. Subtract. I'm left with 0. To get my quotient, I just need to add across the top. 400 plus 20 plus 1 would be 421. All right, let's look at the next one. Now I've got divided by 5 here, so I am going to list out my multiples of 5. 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65. And I'm just going to stop there. And so I'm figuring out how many times can 5 fit into 2,826. How many 5s will fit into there? So I'm just going to start with 28. How close can I get to 28? And if I look, I can get 25, which would be 5 times 5 is 25. But I don't want to do just 5 times 5, because the 28, the 2's in the thousand spot and the 8 is in the hundred spot. So I want to do 500. So 5 times 500 is 2,500. Subtract. And I'm left with 326. Bring that up to the next column. How close can I get to 32 without going over? So that would be 30. And that's 6 times 5 is 30. But it's not just 6 times 5. It would be, since the 2's in that 10 spot, it would be 60. So 5 times 60 is 300. Subtract. Bring up to that next column. I'm left with 26. How close can I get to 26 without going over? That would be 25, which we've already figured out is 5 times 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. And I'm left with 1. Sometimes we are left with something, and that's just what we call our remainder. This is just what is left. It's what remains. It's the remainder. So we put it on our answer. So first, let's add it together. 500 plus 60 plus 5 would be 565 with a remainder of 1. All right, last one. Sarah is packing t-shirts and shorts into bins to store for winter. There are 142 items to pack. She packs the same number of items in each bin. That tells me right there that we're going to divide. How many items does Sarah put into each bin? Oop, I just realized something. They didn't tell us how many bins there are. So let me add that into. So she packs the same number of items into each bin, and we're going to say that there are 3 bins. There are 3 bins here. So we want to figure out how many items does she put into each bin. So we're going to do 142 divided by 3. So again, I'm going to have my divisor on the outside here. I want to list my multiples of 3. We're going to stop at about 30 there. So, oh, and I can scoot that down here so we can see. So how close can I get to 142? How many times can 3 fit in there? So I'm just going to look at 14. I'm going to break it down a little bit. The closest I can get to 14 without going over is 12. So that 12 here, that would be 3 times 4. So, and it's not just 3 times 4, because that 4 is in the 10 spot. It would be 3 times 40. So 3 times 40 would be 120. So 3 times 40 would be 120. Subtract. I'm left with 22. Bring that next one up. How many times can 3 fit into 22? So how close can I get to 22 without going over? And that would be 21, which is 3 times 7, which is 21. But it's not just 3 times 7, because that 2 is in the 10 spot. It would be 3 times 70. 3 times, oh, no, that would be way too much. It would just be 3 times 7. Forgive me there. Those zeros are out of there. Because 3 times 70 would have been 210. So 3 times 7 is 21. Subtract, and I'm left with 1. Bring that 1 up to the next column. How close can I get to 1 without going over? Well, the first number I come across is a 3, and that's already more than 1. So 3 won't fit into 1 at all. So that one is just a 0 there. So add these together here. 40 plus 7 plus 0 would be 47. And I have, don't forget this last one, that's going to be a remainder. Remainder 1. So to answer the question is, how many items does Sarah put in each bin? 47 in each bin. And we've got to say something about our remainder. In this case, we would say something like, with one bin having 48 items. So 2 bins would have 47 and 1 bin would have 48, because we can't leave that one item all alone. We've got to add it into a bin. All right, that is it.